Well, today we're doing a deep dive on the one and only director, Sam Raimi. And, his range from, like, The Evil Dead to Spider-Man
Right.
to, like, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable when you think about it.
Crazy range.
Even with all those different genres, you can still, like, totally tell it's a Raimi film.
Right.
There's always that blend of horror and humor and, genuine realism.
Yeah, totally. It's, like, instantly recognizable.
Yeah, it's his thing. And
Yeah.
the podcast you sent mentioned that, he was obsessed with movies as a kid, like horror, slapstick, comic books.
I mean, that's like a recipe for a Sam Raimi film right there.
Right.
All those classic influences. It seems like all those influences are just baked in.
Totally. Yeah.
Did he always want to be a director? Do we know?
It seems so, yeah. I mean, he was making films with a Super 8 camera when he was just a kid, even working with his, lifelong friend Bruce Campbell back then.
Oh, wow.
And those early films weren't just messing around. They were like the foundation for his style.
Right. Right.
You can see the seeds of what he would become.
And those DIY filmmaking skills, that's going to come in handy later.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when he made The Evil Dead on a shoestring budget.
Yeah. Talk about a trial by fire.
Right.
I mean, filming in a remote cabin with like almost no money and a tiny crew.
That's hardcore.
It's amazing he pulled it off.
That's indie filmmaking at its finest.
Yeah. And those tough conditions actually seem to have like fueled his creativity.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Evil Dead became a cult classic, not just because of the scares and the gore, but because of like its raw energy and inventiveness. It's like a masterclass in how limitations can actually like breed innovation.
It's true. Sometimes when you don't have all the fancy stuff, you got to get more creative.
Exactly. You got to think outside the box.
Right. And it's amazing how a film made with like so little could become so iconic.
Yeah, it really is.
Did the podcast mention how he like achieved that blend of horror and humor?
Yeah, one of the things that makes Raimi's horror so effective is that he doesn't take himself too seriously. He uses slapstick and visual gags to like undercut the tension.
Yeah.
And then slams you with a terrifying image or a jump scare.
He keeps you guessing.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster ride of emotion.
Total roller coaster.
You're laughing one minute and then screaming the next.
And we can't forget about Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Battling deadites with a chainsaw and a boomstick.
The chin.
So good.
It's got to be one of the most iconic horror characters ever.
Definitely up there.
And, Ash, he really embodies the classic Raimi protagonist, like the average guy thrown into extraordinary circumstances.
Right.
Often terrifying circumstances.
Right.
But he's got guts. He's got a wisecrack for every situation.
And he's got that chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
You can't help but root for him.
Totally. You're like, go get him, Ash.
Yeah. The Evil Dead became a total cult classic.
Yeah.
But he didn't stop there, obviously.
Oh, no.
He did Evil Dead Sick.
Evil Dead Sick.
Which I understand is less a sequel and more a wild reimagining of the original.
Yeah, some people even call it a remake.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's like he took the core concept of the Evil Dead
Right.
and just like cranked everything up to 11.
So it's gorier, funnier.
Oh, yeah.
More over the top.
Way more over the top. It's like a cartoon come to life.
Wow.
And Ash really becomes a horror icon in that film.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a classic.
And then he completes the trilogy with Army of Darkness.
Right, sending Ash back to medieval times to fight deadites.
With a chainsaw hand.
With a chainsaw hand and a whole lot of attitude.
And some great one-liners.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Army of Darkness shows us that Raimi is not afraid to play with genre.
Oh, totally.
Like it's horror comedy with elements of fantasy, even a bit of a swashbuckler thrown in.
It's like a genre blender.
He threw everything in there.
Yeah, he threw everything in and it works.
So we've got this incredibly successful horror franchise.
Yeah, he could have just kept making Evil Dead movies forever.
Right, but he didn't want to be pigeonholed.
No, he wanted to branch out and try new things.
The podcast mentioned some of his other films from this period.
Yeah.
Like Crime Wave and Dark Man. What were those like?
Oh, it's fascinating to see him experimenting with different genres. Like
Hey.
Crime Wave was co-written with the Coen brothers.
What?
That's a wild combo.
Is a wild combo.
Wow.
It was like a comedic crime caper, but it didn't quite hit the mark.
Interesting.
But then Dark Man, a dark superhero flick with Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a critical and commercial success.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really interesting film.
So Dark Man showed that Raimi could handle a bigger budget,
Definitely.
a more complex story
Mhm.
without losing that visual style.
Right. He was proving that he could work on a larger scale.
Right. And then there's The Quick and the Dead.
A stylish Western.
With Sharon Stone and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Talk about a cast.
Wow.
Yeah, The Quick and the Dead is like a visual feast.
Yeah.
It showcases Raimi's love of classic Westerns and his knack for creating, these memorable action sequences.
Yeah.
He uses slow-motion gunfights and dramatic close-ups
Oh, cool.
to heighten the tension and give the film a really operatic feel.
So it's not your typical Western.
No, it's definitely a Raimi Western.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
These films, while successful in their own right,
Right.
they were really stepping stones for something much bigger.
Exactly. They were preparing Raimi for the project that would launch him into the stratosphere of Hollywood.
Okay, I'm ready.
Spider-Man.
Let's talk about Spider-Man. This film was a phenomenon. I remember seeing it in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
The audience went wild.
It was huge.
It felt like something truly special was happening.
Absolutely. It was a game changer.
In 2002, after years of other directors trying and failing to bring Spider-Man to the big screen.
Yeah, it was like a cursed project.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Sam Raimi steps up.
Sam Raimi.
It delivers a superhero masterpiece.
It wasn't just a great superhero film.
Right.
It was a great film, period.
It was a great film, period.
And it wasn't just the action and the special effects.
Right.
It was the heart, the humor, the way Raimi captured the essence of Peter Parker and his struggles.
Totally.
You really felt for this character.
Yeah, he made you care about Peter Parker as a person.
Yeah, and Tobey Maguire was so good.
Oh, he was perfect for the role.
Raimi just found the perfect balance between the fantastical elements of the superhero genre
Right.
and the relatable human drama at the heart of the story.
Absolutely. And let's not forget those iconic web-swinging scenes.
Are
The way Raimi uses the camera to convey the speed and agility of Spider-Man,
right.
it's breathtaking.
You really feel like you're soaring through the city with him.
You're right there with him swinging through the skyscrapers.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a real cinematic triumph.
And then, of course, there's the tragic romance between Peter and Mary Jane.
Oh, yeah.
You included that heartbreaking, with great power comes great responsibility sound clip.
Yeah, such a classic line.
It's so good. And it perfectly encapsulates the themes of responsibility and sacrifice
Exactly.
that run throughout Raimi's Spider-Man films.
Yeah, it's a theme that he returns to again and again.
Spider-Man was a massive success, both critically and commercially.
Oh, yeah.
And it paved the way for the superhero movie boom we're still experiencing today.
It really did. It changed the game.
I mean, it's hard to overstate the impact that Raimi's Spider-Man had on the film industry.
Totally.
It proved that superhero films could be more than just mindless entertainment. They could be intelligent, emotional, and visually stunning works of art.
It could be real cinema.
Then in 2004, he followed it up with Spider-Man 2, which many consider to be even better than the original.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 is often cited as the gold standard for superhero sequels.
That train fight scene is still one of the most thrilling action sequences ever put on film.
Oh, man, it's incredible.
It's so good.
The way he builds the tension, the way he uses the environment, it's just masterful.
Spider-Man 2 took everything that worked in the first film and amplified it.
Amplified it.
The action was bigger, the stakes were higher, and the emotional core of the story was even more impactful.
Totally.
And Alfred Molina's performance as Doc Ock.
Oh, my God.
Brilliant.
He was phenomenal.
Bringing a tragic dimension to the villain that we hadn't really seen before in a superhero film.
Right. He wasn't just a one-dimensional bad guy.
Right.
He had depth. He had motivations. You could understand where he was coming from.
He was both menacing and sympathetic.
And
you understood his motivations even as he was terrorizing the city.
yeah, he was a complex character.
Now, Spider-Man 3, on the other hand, seems to be a bit more divisive.
That's true.
While it was a box office success, it received a more mixed critical response.
Yeah, some people loved it. Some people hated it.
Some fans felt that the film was too crowded, trying to juggle too many villains and storylines.
Yeah, it was a lot to take in.
There were rumors of studio interference, with executives pushing Raimi to include certain characters and plot elements that he wasn't entirely comfortable with.
Yeah, that's the rumor.
It's a shame because even with its flaws, Spider-Man 3 still has moments of classic Raimi brilliance.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's clear that the film was a more challenging experience for him
Yeah, it seems like it took a toll on him.
than the previous two installments.
Right.
So after the roller coaster ride of the Spider-Man trilogy, where did Raimi go next?
Well, it seems like he took a break from blockbusters for a while,
Okay.
focusing on smaller, more personal projects.
Interesting.
Yeah, like he needed to recharge his batteries.
I can understand that
Yeah.
after all that.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle.
So we'll see what he does next.
Yeah, we'll see where he goes from there. And in 2009, he went back to horror
Oh, yeah.
With Drag Me to Hell.
I love Drag Me to Hell.
It's so good.
It's got all the classic Raimi elements, the over-the-top gore, the dark humor, the inventive camera work.
It's all there.
But it also feels like a more mature film in a way.
Yeah.
Dealing with themes of guilt and desperation.
Right.
It's really compelling.
It's like he's exploring these darker themes.
Right.
But without losing his sense of fun.
Yeah, it's a tough balance.
Yeah, it is.
And he pulls it off.
He does.
Drag Me to Hell is a great example of how Raimi can just blend genres so well.
Totally.
It's horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a black comedy with like elements of social satire.
Yeah, there's a lot going on beneath the surface.
And that ending?
Oh, man.
That ending.
Pure Raimi.
Shocking, funny, kind of heartbreaking, all at the same time.
Yeah, you don't know whether to laugh or scream.
Exactly.
And that's what's so great about it.
It's like he's messing with you.
He is.
Making you feel all these different things at once.
And that ability to like elicit such a wide range of emotions from the audience, that's a testament to his talent as a filmmaker.
Yeah, it shows how much control he has over the craft.
Yeah, he knows how to push your buttons.
He's not afraid to push boundaries.
No, he's not.
To make you uncomfortable, to make you think.
He wants you to feel something.
Exactly.
Whether it's laughter, fear, or something in between.
So we've got this return to horror with Drag Me to Hell.
Right.
But then he takes a sharp turn.
A sharp turn.
Into family-friendly fantasy.
Right.
With Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oz the Great and Powerful.
What prompted that shift?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Was he looking for a new challenge?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, Oz the Great and Powerful was a big-budget prequel to The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And it allowed Raimi to explore like a different kind of visual storytelling.
Yeah, I could see that.
The film is a visual feast with stunning special effects and this vibrant color palette.
Right.
That evokes the classic MGM musicals.
Yeah, I remember being blown away by the visuals in Oz.
Oh, yeah.
The way he uses 3D to create a sense of depth and wonder is incredible.
It's immersive.
It felt like stepping into another world.
It's like you're right there in Oz.
And while Oz may not be as overtly Raimi-esque as some of his other films, you can still see his signature touches.
Yeah.
In the camera work, the pacing, and the way he blends humor and heart into the story.
Even in a family-friendly film, he can't resist throwing in a few scares.
Right.
And a bit of dark humor.
It's what makes his film so unique.
It's that unpredictable quality.
You never know what's coming next.
No, you don't.
But you know it's going to be entertaining.
Exactly, and visually stunning.
So we've got horror, comedy, fantasy, even a Western.
He's done it all.
But it's clear that Raimi has this deep love for horror.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't stay away from it forever.
And that brings us to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, yes. His triumphant return to the superhero genre and the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The fans were ecstatic.
They were ready for Raimi to take on the MCU.
And he did not disappoint.
Multiverse of Madness is wild.
It's a trip.
A mind-bending ride through the multiverse.
With all the visual spectacle and an epic scope.
That you'd expect from a Marvel movie.
Right.
But it's also a very Raimi film.
Oh, yeah.
With its dark humor, its creepy imagery, and its exploration of the darker side of superheroism.
It's like he took the Marvel formula and infused it with his own unique sensibilities.
It felt like a perfect marriage of Raimi's sensibilities.
Right.
And the Marvel formula.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. The film is full of Raimi's trademark visual flourishes.
Right.
The dynamic camera work, the quick cuts, the unexpected POV shots.
He's playing with all the tools in his toolbox.
And there are moments of genuine horror.
Oh, yeah.
That are reminiscent of his earlier work in the Evil Dead franchise.
It's like he brought a bit of Evil Dead into the MCU.
I read somewhere that Raimi was hesitant to return to the superhero genre after his experience with Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I can understand that.
He felt burned by the studio interference and the pressure to deliver a blockbuster hit.
It must have been a tough experience.
But it's clear that he found a way to make Multiverse of Madness his own.
He did.
He brought his unique vision to the project. And the result is a film that is both a satisfying Marvel spectacle and a distinctively Raimi creation.
It's a real accomplishment.
It's a testament to his resilience as a filmmaker.
Totally.
And his unwavering commitment to his own artistic vision.
He didn't let a negative experience define him.
No, he didn't.
He learned from it and moved forward.
And created something truly special.
Exactly.
So we've seen Raimi go from low-budget horror to big-budget blockbusters, from dark superhero tales to whimsical fantasies.
He's a genre chameleon.
It's incredible how diverse his filmography is.
Yeah.
And yet you can always see those common threads.
Right.
The humor, the heart, the visual flair.
It's all there.
It's like he's constantly pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
experimenting with different genres and styles,
Right.
but always staying true to his core values as a filmmaker.
He's a true original.
You mentioned that Raimi's films often feature ordinary people
Right.
thrust into extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme.
What is it about that archetype that he finds so compelling?
I think there's a certain universality to the underdog story, you know?
Yeah.
We all face challenges in life. We all have to find a way to overcome them.
And we're all underdogs in some way.
Exactly. And Raimi's characters, whether they're fighting deadites or supervillains or just trying to survive a bad day,
Right.
they embody that struggle.
They're relatable, they're flawed, they make mistakes.
Yeah, they're human.
But they also have this core of decency.
Right.
And a willingness to fight for what they believe in.
They don't give up.
And that's what makes them so inspiring.
Yeah, it's that never say die attitude.
Raimi's films remind us that even in the face of overwhelming odds,
Right.
we can all find a way to be heroic.
You don't have to have superpowers to be a hero.
Exactly.
It's about having the courage to do what's right.
He doesn't shy away from showing the darkness and the pain that his characters experience,
No, he doesn't.
but he always finds a way to inject humor and hope into the story.
It's a delicate balance,
Yeah.
but he pulls it off masterfully.
His films are roller coaster ride of emotions, but they always leave you feeling entertained
Yeah.
and even a little bit uplifted.
It's like he's saying that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope.
Raimi's films are so visually distinctive. We've talked a bit about his use of camera work, but I'm curious about his influences in this area. Are there any specific filmmakers or visual artists
Oh, yeah.
that have inspired his style?
Raimi has cited a wide range of influences.
Okay.
From classic horror directors like George A. Romero and Dario Argento,
Right.
to slapstick comedians like the Three Stooges and Buster
Right.
Keaton.
Really?
Yeah, it's a pretty eclectic mix.
That's awesome.
He's also a big fan of comic books.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And he's talked about how the visual language of comics has influenced his use of framing and composition.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like he's bringing the energy and dynamism of comic books to the big screen.
It's fascinating to see how he's taken all those diverse influences
Right.
and synthesized them into his own unique style.
He's not just imitating his heroes.
Right.
He's building upon their work, creating something new and exciting in the process.
And that's what makes him such a visionary filmmaker.
Exactly.
He's not content to simply follow the rules.
No.
He's constantly pushing boundaries, experimenting, and finding new ways to tell stories visually.
He's a true innovator.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Raimi's films and his influences,
Right.
but I'd love to dig a little deeper into his process. What's he like on set?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is he a demanding director?
I don't think so.
A collaborative one?
From what I've heard, he's actually very collaborative.
Really?
Yeah, he's open to ideas from his actors and crew,
Okay.
and he creates a very positive and supportive environment on set.
That's surprising,
Yeah.
given his reputation for making these intense, often chaotic films.
Right. You'd expect him to be a real taskmaster.
A little bit.
But it seems that he understands the importance of creating a sense of trust
All right.
and camaraderie among his collaborators.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, he wants everyone to feel like they're part of a team,
Right.
working together to achieve a common goal.
That makes sense. His films are often so complex,
Oh, yeah.
involving elaborate special effects and intricate action sequences. You need a strong team to pull that off.
Absolutely.
And it seems that Raimi's a master at building those teams.
He is.
He surrounds himself with talented people, and he gives them the freedom to do their best work.
He trusts his collaborators.
It's interesting to think about how his early experiences with DIY filmmaking
Right.
might have shaped his approach to collaboration.
Yeah, those early days when he had to rely on his friends and colleagues to help him make his vision a reality.
Right.
Those experiences taught him the value of teamwork
Yeah.
and the importance of trusting your collaborators.
And it's clear that those lessons have stayed with him throughout his career.
Absolutely.
But he's still the captain of the ship, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He's the one steering the course,
He's the visionary.
making the final decisions.
He's the one with the overall plan.
He's a director with a strong vision,
Yeah.
and he knows exactly what he wants to achieve.
He's got a clear idea of what he's trying to do.
But he's also willing to listen to others,
Right.
to take input and feedback,
Yeah.
and to adjust his approach as needed.
He's not afraid to change things up if it's not working.
That's the mark of a truly great director.
Totally.
Someone who can balance their own vision with the
Yeah.
contributions of their collaborators.
It's a delicate balancing act,
It is.
but Raimi seems to have mastered it.
His films are a testament to his ability to bring together talented people
Right.
and create something truly extraordinary.
He's a real team player.
You mentioned there were rumors of studio interference on Spider-Man 3.
Oh, yeah.
Can you shed some light on that?
Well, it's a complex issue.
Okay.
On a big-budget film, the studio has a significant financial stake in the project,
Right.
and they want to ensure that their investment is protected.
Right.
This often means that they have a lot of say in the creative process,
Oh, okay.
from the casting to the script to the final cut of the film.
So even a director with Raimi's clout
Right.
can't always get his way?
It's not always that simple. It's a negotiation,
Okay.
a give and take between the director's artistic vision and the studio's commercial interests.
I see. So it's like a balancing act.
It is.
How do you think Raimi navigates those pressures?
It seems that he's learned to pick his battles.
Okay.
He'll fight for the things that are most important to him, the core elements of his vision.
Right.
But he's also willing to compromise on certain aspects of the film if it means preserving the overall integrity of the project.
It's a shame that Spider-Man 3 suffered from those creative clashes.
Yeah, it is.
But it's also a reminder that even the most talented directors
Right.
have to contend with the realities of the studio system.
It's not always easy.
It's a testament to Raimi's resilience and his commitment to his craft
Absolutely.
that he was able to bounce back from that experience and continue to create such innovative and entertaining films.
He's a true professional.
It's clear that he's a filmmaker who's passionate about his work,
He is.
and he's not going to let a few setbacks derail his career.
No, he's not.
He's a survivor, and he's got a lot more stories to tell.
I can't wait to see what he does next.
We've talked a lot about Raimi's visual style, but I'd love to hear more about his use of music.
Oh, yeah.
He has a long-standing collaboration with composer Danny Elfman,
Right. One of the great composer-director partnerships.
and their scores are so iconic.
They're incredible.
Elfman's scores for Raimi's films are more than just background music.
Right.
They're an integral part of the storytelling.
They add another layer of depth and emotion.
They heighten the tension,
Yeah.
amplify the emotion.
Yeah, they're essential to the overall experience.
The Spider-Man theme is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
It's heroic, it's tragic, it's unforgettable.
It's perfect.
Elfman has a knack for capturing the essence of Raimi's characters and stories through music.
Yes.
His scores are often operatic in scope,
Yeah.
with sweeping melodies and dramatic crescendos that perfectly complement Raimi's visual style.
It's like they were made for each other.
And he's not afraid to use unconventional instruments and sounds
No, he's not.
to create a unique sonic landscape for each film.
He's always experimenting.
Think about the use of medieval instruments in Army of Darkness,
Right.
or the haunting ethereal vocals and Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, those are great examples.
Elfman's music is always surprising
It is.
and always effective.
He's a master of his craft.
It's clear that Raimi and Elfman have this deep understanding of each other's creative processes.
Yeah, they're on the same wavelength.
Their collaboration is a true partnership,
It is.
and it's resulted in some of the most memorable film scores of all time.
Absolutely.
Their work together is a testament to the power of collaboration
Totally.
and the magic that can happen when two creative minds are perfectly in sync.
It's inspiring.
It's inspiring to see a director who's achieved such a high level of success
Right.
continue to evolve and experiment.
He could easily rest on his laurels.
Right. He
Yeah.
could just keep making the same kind of films.
But that's not his style.
No.
He's a risk taker, a visionary,
Yeah.
and he's always pushing himself to try new things.
Even after all these years, he's still finding new ways to surprise and delight audiences.
He's a true original.
And I, for one, can't wait to see what he does next.
Me too.
He's a filmmaker who's always one step ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
And he's sure to continue to push the boundaries of cinema for years to come.
I have no doubt about that.
All right, so welcome back to the deep dive for the final part of our, Sam Raimi deep dive.
A home stretch.
Yeah, we've, talked about his influences, his career,
Mm.
his evolution as a filmmaker. But now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what makes his film so visually distinct.
Yeah. This is where we really see Raimi's mastery of the craft, like how he uses the tools of filmmaking.
Right.
The camera, the editing, the sound in such a deliberate and impactful way.
I've always been fascinated by his camera work. It's so dynamic, so energetic. You just know you're watching a Raimi film just from the way the camera moves.
Yeah, he's not afraid to move the camera.
Oh, he's not.
He's got a real knack for using the camera to tell this story visually. Like, he loves those sudden zooms, the ones that just jolt you out of your suit.
Yeah.
It's like he's putting you right in the character's shoes, you know, making you experience the fear or the excitement firsthand.
Yeah, and those Dutch angles where the camera's tilted to the side,
Yeah.
it creates this feeling of unease,
hmm
like the world itself is off kilter.
The Dutch angle is a classic horror technique, and Raimi uses it to great effect, especially in his early films.
Yeah.
It's disorienting, it's unsettling, and it perfectly captures that chaotic energy of his films.
And he also loves those POV shots where we see the world through the eyes of a character, often right before something terrifying happens.
Oh yeah, those are great.
Remember that shot in The Evil Dead where the camera like races through the woods chasing after the teenagers?
Yeah, it's pure cinematic terror.
You feel like you're being hunted right alongside them.
And what's amazing is that he achieves these incredible shots even with limited resources. Like in The Evil Dead, he literally strapped a camera to a plank of wood to create that tracking shot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That DIY spirit is so inspiring. He's not letting lack of resources like limit his creativity.
No, he's finding a way to make it work.
And the result is one of the most iconic horror films of all time.
It's true.
But it's not just the horror films, even in Spider-Man. He uses those dynamic camera moves to capture the exhilaration of web slinging.
Exactly. He adapts his techniques to different genres, but that kinetic energy, that sense of movement and momentum is always there.
Yeah.
It's part of his signature style.
Okay, let's talk about editing.
Okay.
Editing plays just as big a role as camera work in creating that signature Raimi feel.
Oh, absolutely. His editing is often fast-paced and jarring, especially in the horror films.
Right.
He uses quick cuts, jump cuts, even smash cuts to create a sense of chaos and disorientation. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, never quite sure what's coming next.
Yeah, and yet he's not afraid to slow things down when he needs to, especially during those moments of extreme violence.
It's true.
It's like he wants you to savor the carnage to really feel the impact of it.
He uses slow motion in a very specific way, often juxtaposing it with those rapid cuts to create a truly unsettling rhythm. It's a roller coaster ride of visual and emotional extremes.
And then there's the sound design.
Oh, yeah.
Raimi's films are full of these exaggerated sound effects.
Right.
From the squishy sounds of gore to the roar of chainsaws.
He uses sound to visceralize the horror, to make it more immediate and impactful.
Right.
And he's a master of using silence to build tension. You can feel the dread creeping in, and then bam, he hits you with a sudden burst of sound that makes you jump out of your skin.
It's that contrast between silence and noise that really gets under your skin.
Yeah, it's so effective.
He's playing with your expectations, keeping you off balance.
Totally.
And we can't forget about the music.
Oh, yeah. The music is so important.
Raimi has this long-standing collaboration with composer Danny Elfman, and their scores are just as important as the visuals in creating those unforgettable cinematic moments.
Elfman's scores for Raimi films are truly iconic.
They are.
They have this grand operatic quality that elevates the action and the emotions. Think about the Spider-Man theme. So heroic, so tragic, so perfectly suited to the character.
It's amazing how Elfman is able to capture the essence of Raimi's films through music.
He really does.
He's not afraid to experiment with different instruments and sounds either.
No, he's not.
In Army of Darkness, he uses a lot of medieval-sounding instruments, which adds to the film's overall sense of absurdity.
Right. It's perfect for that film.
It's clear that Raimi and Elfman have this deep understanding of each other's creative processes. Their collaboration is a true partnership.
Yeah, they're a great team.
And it's resulted in some of the most memorable film scores of all time.
For sure.
So we've got the camera work, the editing, the sound design, the music, all these elements working together to create the signature Sam Raimi experience. What do you think it is about his style that resonates with audiences?
I think it's his willingness to embrace the extremes, you know?
Yeah.
He's not afraid to be funny. He's not afraid to be scary. He's not afraid to be over the top.
He goes for it.
He goes for it, and he does it all with such a sense of joy and energy that it's infectious.
He's like a kid in a candy store, playing with all the tools of filmmaking and having a blast doing it.
Exactly, and that enthusiasm translates to the screen.
You can feel his passion for cinema in every frame of his films.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what ultimately connects with audiences. They can sense that he's making films, that he loves films, that he believes in.
Right.
And that authenticity shines through.
It does.
He's not trying to be cool or edgy or intellectual.
No.
He's just trying to entertain, to tell a good story, to take us on a wild ride.
And he does it brilliantly.
So, dear listener, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Sam Raimi. and it's been a blast.
It has.
From those early low-budget horror films to those big Marvel blockbusters, he's always stayed true to himself.
He has.
And his films are a testament to the power of imagination, the importance of, staying true to your vision,
Right.
and the endless possibilities of cinema.
He's a true inspiration
He is.
for any aspiring filmmaker.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.